For today's presentation, I have two verses from the third chapter of the Gita. The third chapter, which is called Karma Yoga. Krishna says there are mainly two ways to reach realization, to obtain liberation, to obtain mukti. Either through Karma Yoga, that is, to continue to live our lives, making all of our life as an offering to the divine. Whatever work we do, doing work as worship, as yajna, or living this life, this way of life, and becoming a sannyasi, which is much harder because as a sannyasi we wouldn't have a family, we wouldn't have the creature comforts of life like we have, so it's a more challenging way. Either way, Krishna says, if we stick with it, we would be able to experience realization with continuous effort. What is realization? Realization is just that, realizing that I am that. I have the divinity within me. I have all the bliss within me. I didn't know it and I didn't experience it. But with following whichever path we follow, we would be able to recognize this truth and realize this truth and experience this truth, is what Krishna says. Krishna also recommends that all of us, most of us, follow Karma Yoga because it's more practical to continue to do what we are doing and pursue liberation. Now, when a Karma Yogi continues this pursuit and becomes successful, becomes a jnani, realizes the truth, how does he behave? And what is his relationship with the world? And how does the world perceive him? For that, we go to the first verse I picked, which is verse 20 in the third chapter, Karma Yoga, which says, Karma naiva hi samsiddhim astitaha janakadayaha loka sangrahamevapi sampashyan kartumarhasi. Krishna says, indeed, by action alone, Janaka and others have obtained liberation, perfection. With their examples in view, he's telling Arjuna, keep that in your mind and act and work for the good of the world. Okay? Now, Janaka and others like Ashwapati, this is mentioned in Chandogya Upanishad. There are people who have followed Karma Yoga and have attained liberation. Now, the Janaka we are talking about here is Siratwaja Janaka, who is the father of Sita. There are two times characters from Ramayana are mentioned in the Gita. One is now Janaka, Sita's father. The other time is in the 10th chapter when Krishna talks about Vibhuti Yogam. He says, of all the warriors, I am Rama. So those are the two times we hear about mentioning about Ramayana in the Gita. Janaka was a king, he was a Rajarshi, and he did a lot of yajnas through his priest who was Yajnavalka. And however, the person that was most responsible for his realization was called Ashtavakra. Ashtavakra was a very interesting fellow. He is mentioned in the Vana Parva of Mahabharata. Ashtavakra was cursed by his father because when he was in his mother's womb, he used to listen to his father, who was a very, very well learned and educated, knowledgeable person who recited scriptures. So Ashtavakra listened to these scriptures while he was still in the womb and learned all of it. And one day the father was mentioning some scriptures and makes a mistake, and this baby in the womb challenges the father. Father gets very upset and curses him, saying, "You would be born as Ashtavakra," means with 8 crooked limbs. Crookedness in the limbs means like a deformed baby. However, Ashtavakra already knew all the knowledge he needs to know. He was born as a realized person, as a sage. When he was 12 years old, he goes to the kingdom of Janaka. There, Janaka sees him, and he kind of gets repulsed looking at this deformed child, young 12-year-old child, whom he didn't know was a sage already. So this young sage senses that, and he says to Janaka, "O king, somebody who is a wise man, he would have what's known as Atma Drishti. Atma Drishti is somebody who is able to look at the reality beyond this manifested world. But an unwise person, an ignorant person, is caught up in this manifested world with the names and forms and shapes. And this impresses Janaka. He realizes this is a great man, prostrates to him and says, "Teach me more." And Ashtavakra teaches him, and that's called Ashtavakra Gita or Samhita. And it is supposed to be the best description, the most direct description of Tattvamasi. You are that, Advaita. It is said that Swami Vivekananda was advised by his teacher, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, to read Ashtavakra Gita. And he did, and he used to quote it a lot because it is really the best example of Advaita Vedanta. So that's how Janaka, who was a king, who had everything, but took his duty very seriously and did it with complete dedication with the help of Ashtavakra. And he didn't do his duty as like, what's in it for me? He was aware of his duties and as a king, and did it with the spirit of Karma Yoga. So work became worship for Janaka when he followed Karma Yoga. And even after he became a realized person, he did not stop. He didn't leave everything and go to like far off places like Himalayas or caves or somewhere like that. Because he realized to be a mystic, you don't have to go any place. You can be right here and be a mystic. So he did continue, stay put where he was, and continue to do his duty for the good of the world. And that's what Krishna is explaining. For the good of the world, he did what he was supposed to do, his prarabdha karma, we say. He was born to do that. Because Janaka realized doing good for others, helping others is service to God. What is the difference between him doing his duty before realization and after realization? The difference is the state of mind. When a realized person does anything, he does it with happy state of mind. A realized person doesn't do something to be happy. He's already happy, and he does whatever he does with joy, with happiness, with contentment. Okay? So he does that. All right. Now, and however, what do? We do things to be happy. That is the difference between a realized person and unrealized person. Now he was continuing to do what he was supposed to do for the good of the world. Now, this point that we need to do whatever we need to do for the good of the world is emphasized again and again by Krishna in the Gita. He says we get a lot from the society and we are supposed to give back to the society. Otherwise, we are like just taking, and we are like thieves. We have to do things to help the society. And this point is so important that Krishna comes back again in verse 25 in the 3rd chapter, and he says, Saktaha karmanya vidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryad vidvams tada saktaha chikirshur loka sangraham. He says, as the ignorant men act from attachment to action, O Bharata, O Arjuna, so should the wise men act without attachment, wishing the welfare of the world. What do? We are so motivated, we work so tirelessly with so much passion. We want to get things. We want to do something, get the fruits of our labor. We are working, keeping our eyes on that. Whereas Krishna says, even if you are realized, even if you don't have anything to get back, one needs to continue to do, even a liberated, realized person continues to do with so much passion, same dedication for the good of the world. So what starts as an action with attachment, completely for ourselves, so much self-centered, can evolve into karma yoga, into realization, and continue to do work for the good of the society with an attitude of gratitude. And that's what Krishna is trying to say to guide Arjuna. Arjuna is so much in despair, he wants to leave everything and run away from the battlefield. And Krishna is trying to pursue him to stay in the battlefield, do his duty, and shoulder his responsibility. You said you have to. One has to do the duty. One has to shoulder the responsibility. And that's the best way to give back to the society. Arjuna was born a prince. He had all these responsibilities to his community, to his people. So much depended on him. What he did just did not affect Arjuna alone. It affected the community also, the people also. So Krishna is trying to educate him about this while the war is about to go on. And the backdrop of the war is really a symbolic type of thing, because when we look at what happens in the world, the so-called enemy, Kaurava, is not out there. It's really in here. The thoughts we have, the ideas we have, the suffering we have through what goes on in our head, the conflicts we face every day, the challenges we face every day, the difficult choices we have to make because of the family, because of the friends, because of the society, because of aging, health issues, you name it, one after the other, keep going on and on. And we have these battles raging in our head, never-ending battles. And Krishna says, running away, Arjuna, is not going to be the answer. He's trying to teach him that. And he says you have to stay where you are supposed to stay, and you have to do what you're supposed to do. Your duty, your dharma. You can evolve doing it completely for your own sake to completely for the sake of the world. You can evolve, but you cannot abandon your duty, is what Krishna is trying to teach. And Swami Dayananda Saraswati used to say that this is like playing our roles according to the script. And how do we know what our script is? Well, how do we know what we are supposed to do? Because now it's so complicated. Everybody is able to do everything, unlike in the good old days where there were more designations according to gender and caste and society levels and all that, but not anymore. So we need to pay attention to a few things. One is the inner voice we have, the spirit that tells us what's right, what's wrong, and keeping our value system, the value system that we were taught. and holding this life as a privilege, the biggest gift we've ever been given, and living that way with an attitude of gratitude and following the basic principle not to try not to hurt others. And we take from the society. This is a point that Gita tells us again and again. We take from the society, we have to give back to the society. And it depends on what stage, whether we are students, whether we are teachers and parents and young people, old people. Different stages of life have different things to do to give back to the society. But the basic principles, some are good no matter what. Being kind, having a smile on your face when you interact with people, or like giving a helping hand, saying a kind word. Whatever we could do at any time, the point is to be in the state of what can I do to give back to the society. So dharma here is like using whatever the life process is as a stairwell to reach the divinity. And Krishna tries to connect that constantly. You have to live your life and use this life as a tool to discover the divinity you have within yourself. Now, why is Krishna mentioning about King Janaka? There might be a few reasons. One is that Arjuna is a Kshatriya and Janaka is a Kshatriya. Maybe he can relate to somebody with similar background better and understand what he is supposed to do. Now, Krishna is also advising about Karma Yoga, and he wants to also make the point that this is not a fancy idea, something new that has popped up. It is an age-old, verified, proven way of, trying to realize oneself. So Krishna is trying to impress upon Arjuna about that. Krishna is also trying to advise Arjuna that even a realized person does not abandon and go. So how can you go? You're not even a realized person. You're a very knowledgeable person, but you're not there yet. And you cannot abandon. When a realized person is not abandoning, you cannot abandon. Because what happens? Yadha Raja Tadha Praja. If he does that, then it would be like what would happen to the rest of the people. So to make that point, Krishna comes to this 21st verse that I picked, where he says, Yad yada acharati shreshtaha tatta devetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanu vartate. He says, whatever a great person, a noble person, a superior person, ideal person has many meanings, Shreshta does, the others imitate. They take notice, and whatever standard he sets, the others follow. Okay? So he says, we need to be aware of this. When you think about man is typically an observing and imitating creature, right? When you think about man is very proud that he wants his freedom, he's very independent and all that. But when you look at man, it seems that man has an innate nature, innate urge, innate desire to imitate somebody else. Do you notice that? People want to imitate others. And his behavior is affected by various role models through family and friends and society. And also the more people follow somebody, it looks like more people want to follow that person, right? So society has so many role models. Society looks up to its leaders, children look up to their parents, students look up to their teachers, athletes their coaches, fans their idols. It looks like everybody has some kind of role in leading somebody else. So, in a way, each one of us can be a Shreshta, meaning we don't even know whom we are influencing, and we realize so many people have influenced us. So sometimes we might be influencing others through our behavior, and we may not even be aware of it. So Krishna is saying, be careful about what you do. there can be a ripple effect too. And the way we influence the society can be direct or indirect, like when we raise children, how they interact with the society. We are affecting the society that way. So Krishna is trying to bring the attention to this, because what you do is important. It affects others is what he's trying to say. So how one behaves and conducts oneself depends on many of these influences in life. And the word Krishna uses is acharati. Means what one does, not vadati. Vadati is just what one says. Krishna says more than words, which are important. It's a type of karma too, but your actions even influence others more. Swami Chinmayananda used to say, I believe, that morality is caught. Morality is not taught. It's a very interesting way of putting it. It's caught because children watch their parents, what they do. Children watch others in the society, what they are doing. They say research shows even little bit kids, like infants, try to follow what adults are not only saying but doing. So it's very, very important when Krishna is saying do the right thing. He's saying make it a habit of thinking right, selecting right, doing the right thing that benefits you and benefits the society. These are good habits. So Gita is also for kids, because Krishna is trying to tell us, you be careful about how you're behaving, because this is going to affect the society, your children. When they catch something young, it's going to stay with them throughout the life. So be aware of all this is what he's talking about. Now, coming back to Arjuna, Arjuna is a leader, whether he likes it or not. He is looked up to by his people, right? So they are waiting for him to lead him. So he cannot run away. What happens if he runs away? Because he's sad. He wants to run away because he's sad. He's thinking that if I don't go, all these people are going to be killed. But he cannot run away at this stage. He cannot run away even if he were a gnani. Krishna is trying to say not only you, even a gnani cannot run away from his job. Either way, you will be setting a bad example. Say what happens to the morale. People are depending on Arjuna at this time. If he runs away, what would happen to the morale? They would give up too. The whole thing would be collapsing. So Krishna is saying, no, you have no choice but to stay. You have to set a proper example. You have to protect your people. You have to fight for your people. This is your prarabdha. Prarabdha means something we have done in the past that follows us into this life, and we are born to do that. He was born into this family with these duties. He has no choice at this point. He cannot run away from this stage. Now, what if this were not a war situation? Just take a other example. Another way of looking at it is, even people of higher spiritual accomplishment, attainment, higher level of being, like Janaka did, for example, cannot run away or abandon the society, because people who do not have this level of understanding, who are at a lower level of understanding, put two and two together. Enlightenment means abandon the society. So abandoning society can be looked at enlightenment. Am I making the point? So people who are enlightened, who have higher level of functioning, continue to work for the good of the society, because they are setting example. People would be looking at them and they say, well, he's left everything, so I can leave too. That's not going to be helpful to the society. So that's what Krishna is talking about. You have to be careful about how your behavior can be misunderstood. You may not have anything to gain from this personally, but the society does. You have to keep that in mind. So whether we are leaders or not, Whether we are big shots or not, what we do influences the society at every level. And Krishna says we need to be careful about it. And a practical example for all of us would be many of us who came from India. Whether we like it or not, we represent India, right? What we do is affecting how people would view India, for example. So that is the point that Krishna is trying to say. Now, I would like to summarize what all I have said today as following. To experience bliss, to experience peace, we need not run away from this life. That is the first point Krishna is trying to say. We don't need to go to some mystical places to experience peace. We can stay right here and evolve spiritually by continuing to do what we are supposed to do. No matter what Krishna says, you have to do your duty. You have to stick with your dharma. But change the way you look at things. Shift in our thinking. Shift in our attitude. First, he says, be grateful. Grateful for your life. You have been given so much from birth. Every precious thing you can think about, sunlight, moonlight, rain, air we breathe, nature, flowers, trees, everything is free. So much is given. Starting from our life till our death, we have been continuously given. Krishna says we have to become aware of that and give it back as a yajna. Always be ready to give back to the society, no matter what level of spirituality we have. And change from being a taker. We have been so aware of wanting. Krishna says change that. Be a giver. Don't be a taker all the time. And whatever you do, Krishna says, be aware of your actions, because they influence not only you, but the others also. So try to set the best example you can. That's my presentation.